Harvey, my friend, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, mate. We've taken far too long to get to the first episode, but I'm glad you finally got around to it, mate. So I'm keen to be part of it.
Thanks, man. It's honestly, it's kind of weird because I've definitely been talking about this for far too long and not pulling the trigger on it. So getting to getting to the point where stuff's actually rolling out the door feels really good. It also feels kind of surreal. You're still battling with all that imposter syndrome and all that bullshit around whether or not why would you listen to me? Why would I do this? But I think you've just got to keep going and listen to the people that have come before me in this field who all started from a couch or, a bedroom or like an office in the back of their actual office, just filming stuff with friends. So that's the mindset. But I wanted to talk to you about the laptop lifestyle. You're someone who's actually managed to kind of embark out on this quest in a meaningful way, and there's a lot of hype around it. There's a lot of people pushing and promoting different products and brands and businesses online, selling the laptop lifestyle. What are the biggest misconceptions that people have about moving to another country and starting a business from your laptop?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I guess I guess the thing is it's so personal based on like your own individual situation. And what I think is unexpected for me is you might just be faced with a completely different set of circumstances. I think a lot of people probably think it's this great big scary thing that's very difficult to do, that it's a big thing. And maybe that's the case if you're like, later in life and you've got kids or whatever, or you've already got an established business or you have a job. But for me, when I did it, I went out here to play online poker, and I was already playing online poker back home, and so for me it was just super easy. Like it was you just book a flight and you book a hotel for a week, get a visa, and then it's real simple. And when you get here, I came to Thailand, by the way. I guess I only have experience with Thailand, but the main thing about this place is the sort of it's just like so easy to live here. Back in Oz, it's just red tape for everything, man. Like if you want to rent an apartment, get a new apartment in back home, like in Brisbane, I remember having to come out with. I had to do an application just to stay at this place, and then you had to include your income, proof of income, and all this stuff. You come here, like first day, you can just like check out the apartment, and then the agent will just ask you, "Do you want to move in?" Yeah, just give us some cash, and like you like move in that afternoon. Like it's just like it's a piece of piss, and so like for me, I really value just yeah, having like the ease of just being able to live and just kind of like do my own thing without big government sort of making things harder than they need to be. Um, Misconceptions. I had one. Maybe we'll come back to it later. But yeah, it's. I guess it's kind of something you just gotta learn for yourself, and everyone's gonna have a completely different experience. But for me, it's been the best thing I've ever done. Like, and it was very easy. The overall, the whole process.
Yeah, sounds like your lifestyle obviously was, or you're playing online poker. Your income was already kind of geared towards it anyway, which is a bit of a competitive advantage. I mean, you've obviously met a lot of other people throughout the process. What are some of the things that maybe either they've spoken about or some of the things you've seen online that have kind of pushed as these either rosy scenarios, like the sort of grass is greener type misconceptions that are not realistic, or the flip side of that, like what are the things that people typically dread and fear that are, to your point, like not that bad?
Yeah. Again, I'm like kind of like my sort of uh, opinion of it all has been like so insanely positive overall. It's like I can't even like play devil's advocate almost, because it's like the people that I've known here. Like I've met a lot of living in this particular town. I've met a lot of interesting people, but like it's the whole thing has been so overwhelmingly positive that I haven't even like haven't come across too many other people that have like told me that they've struggled with the move, or they've struggled to, make a life out here. And that's the thing as well. People think like they come here, it's like if it doesn't work out, oh, they're fucked or whatever. It's like, no, you give it a crack for a year, and if it doesn't work out, you can always move back. But I think the other thing as well is people will kind of just go here or go like just move without really having a plan in mind. Like I was already making income online, which makes things a lot easier. If you still don't have a business or some idea of how you're going to make money online or how you're going to support yourself out here, I think that combined with the whole sort of jarring, transition could get pretty interesting for some people. But again, like it's not hard if you learn a skill, and like you could just like freelance or just do whatever. There's so much remote work available now that it's pretty easy to hit the ground with some sort of income at least. And then once you're sort of settled in, like pretty easy to, if you want to start a business. We can talk about like burn rate and stuff here. Like the best thing about this place is burn rate. Basically, like your cost of living is going to be so non-existent that, if I wanted to live the same lifestyle back home, it's like, rent is 5 times more expensive back home, which is really important, especially when you're a new entrepreneur and you don't really have much of a business or income yet. Like being able to get away with $1 to $2 grand a month in living expenses is so helpful, because you're not just like hamstringed by expenses immediately. You can actually pour that money into the business, or just have like you can just kind of breathe a little bit to make it happen. Whereas, back home, like you're flat out just trying to pay the bills, let alone, get something up on the side. So it's just much easier to breathe over here, and especially if you're an entrepreneur. Like I think now, like in this sort of post-internet age where we all, it's a globalized world now where we all basically I think everyone should get to pick where they live in the world, and it's interesting that a lot of people still tend to default to just staying in their hometown for like a lot longer than they necessarily should. If your lifestyle is better configured to somewhere like Thailand or Bali or something like this, then it's like you kind of just got to do it. Like there's no reason not to anymore. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like something you touched on just before was, moving at a younger stage in life when you don't have kids, you don't have commitments, you don't have, assets and debt that you've accumulated, and sort of just like making the move as fast as you can really makes the whole thing a lot easier.
Earlier in life, it's going to be so much easier, because as soon as you start wanting to buy things and like have possessions, like that makes it really tricky. Like if you've got a bunch of shit and you decide to move to Thailand, where you've got to get rid of it or like store it somewhere, and then that's another problem. So if you're young and single, like the world's your oyster pretty much. And like, I mean, like we can talk about like the attraction arbitrage here. Like if you're a young sort of Western single guy from say somewhere like Australia or anywhere in the West, you're just gonna like absolutely clean up with the girls. Oh yeah, you've gone like you've gone straight to 10, mate. You are the prototypical handsome man, and it's like I heard about it before I moved here. I had a friend, I was moving with a German pro originally, and he would always talk about the girls and stuff and how it's like, crazy and everything. And I was just kind of here to learn study poker, right? But that is one thing you kind of, at least in Thailand and at least in this particular city, is probably the sex tourism capital of the world. Like it is very full on dealing with we chatted a bit about this last night. These girls be crazy, man. And it's kind of interesting. Like I'll go home like for a few weeks back to Brisbane, and it's just like you could just feel it's very, very different. Like you kind of blend in to the scenery a lot more, whereas here you stick out like a sore thumb. And they have this weird thing where it's in Thailand, they. I've got friends here that have been propositioned by women to, they want to pay them to have sex with them because they want a beautiful mixed baby. So if you're a Thai woman and you have a half kid, that is just like that is like social status. Like it's the best thing you can have. And so it's just the idea of being a a farang in Thailand is very appealing. I'm sure it's the same, like, pretty much all over the place, but certainly in Asia for sure.
I think, yeah, I've experienced it when I was younger in other Asian cultures. Like I traveled around China when I was 15 and, go to nightclubs and bars and no one would ask for ID. They'd let you in, like VIP line and stuff. You could just walk around. I think that's a really interesting sort of take because, there's so much racial contention at the moment online around the sort of like political sort of, landscape. And people are always talking about, the prejudices of white men, and people are always talking about, oh, you're so privileged, and then on the other side of the discussion it's like, well, actually they're not that privileged because of all of these stats and metrics which are kind of ignored when you take the top of the bell curve out of the equation, like that top 25 or even smaller 10% of men who are just cleaning up and skewing the statistics. It's like everything's actually a lot more sort of mediated than how it's portrayed. But then you go to an Asian country and there are all these amazing benefits. And I love the term you use, attraction arbitrage, right? Like not just physical attraction, but also like the attractiveness of the lifestyle quality, the opportunities over there. Like I'm sure as a wealthy, Saudi prince who's got bankrolled by an oil tycoon, you go into, the Americas and all of a sudden there's doors that open to you that don't open anywhere else because you have money and you have access to a foreign culture and foreign investments. And so doors open for you like that. And it's this kind of same concept. A white guy walking around in Thailand, it's just like doors just open up for you.
Doors open up, skirts open up, everything, mate. It's like, I back home in Oz, like I did okay for myself, with the ladies and everything, but like, there would be periods in my life where I would kind of feel a little like lonely or like maybe, I don't know, maybe I would go through, a bit of a dry patch and start to feel like, or am I sort of unlovable or unwanted, and so the kind of loneliness was a little bit of a thing for me back home, but over here I'm like just as much of a lone wolf, if not more. And I don't get lonely because there's a completely different sort of you kind of know that there's like abundance here, and it's kind of like you can choose to have it if you want, whereas back home there was like times of desperation where it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I can meet a girl that likes me, that I'm attracted to, or it's like you go through periods of like massive doubt and stuff. Whereas here now it's like I can go months without talking to another soul and still know that I can go out any night of the week and like meet new people, make new friends and stuff. And it's like it's just a completely different vibe, and it just like in terms of like personal confidence and everything. Like I'm sure like a lot of people, like if you were just like a young guy and you just wanted to get a girlfriend, like go and get some reps in the bank, like this would be a good learning experience. Because I've met a few poker players here when I first moved here who were extremely socially inept, like think first year computer science lecture, just like the most computer nerdy cretins of the world, like have no idea how to sort of talk to a woman or anything like that. And of course, they marry up with the first woman that talks to them, but it's still like you can get some experience here that is gonna be, it's just like a lot easier to just get some reps under your belt compared to like back home where it can be a much bigger deal.
Yeah, and this kind of like, I mean, this is not really a topic of this show, but like it kind of touches on the sort of like black pill incel kind of like crisis that's happening at the moment in young men, where like young men are just disengaging from dating. They're just pulling away from the dating market from like females and becoming very like toxified towards them. And the role models that they have to listen to sort of explain their suffering are very polarizing. They're either like, Andrew Tate on one side, or like hyper progressive, like gender boundary destroying on the other side. And there's no real reasonable middle ground. And it's kind of like, if someone was just to be able to say to them, hey guys, like sure, maybe you're struggling for whatever reason in like the emotional and dating market in America or in Europe, in New Zealand, in Australia, move to Thailand for 3 months, you know, maybe pick up a job.
Training wheels. Literally, it's just like training wheels for relationships. Trust me, like after a year, you'll just be a much more well-rounded person. Like, and like people also think like maybe the language barrier is going to be a thing. I've been here like 7 years now, and I still know only about 7 words of Thai. Like it's not a big deal. And in other countries, like you're probably going to struggle a bit more if you don't know the language. But Thailand's one of the, you know, it's you can do fine, completely fine without speaking any Thai. And obviously the Philippines they have a very good English there. You know, I think you'd probably struggle in somewhere like Japan, but Singapore, I think it's pretty good. Like it's not a big deal. So in terms of like misconceptions, if we go back to your original question, it's like you might think that you need to be able to speak another language, or you might think, you know, going down to the immigration office to get a visa is going to be tricky with nothing being in English. It's like, no, it's just not a thing. It's super easy. And yeah, don't worry about the language thing at all. Like there's apps for that now, bro.
That's it. Like you pull out your phone, there's translator apps. And honestly, like when I traveled and I was in places where, you know, you go to rural parts of Asia where they don't speak English, or even some parts of Europe, right? Like if you go north in Italy up towards the Austrian-German borders, there are places there where you'll get a menu and it'll be in German and Italian. Like it won't be in English and Italian. Their second language is so you kind of have to figure it out, and like you'll be fine.
Yeah, especially if you speak English as your like primary language, like you're gonna be fine pretty much anywhere. Like here, you got a lot of menus in like Thai and Russian, so like there's probably more Russians here than English speaking folk, but it's so like they have a tougher time on their hands because they have to speak in English to them. But if you're from Australia or the US, or if you can speak decent English, like you're gonna do completely fine here. Like no worries at all.
Yeah, and that's like I think that's such a barrier. Maybe like that's, you know, again, one of those misconceptions people have, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go and live in another country and reduce that burn rate and bring my cost of living down and take advantage of all these arbitrage opportunities because I don't know the language. It's like you don't need to. And, you know, that sort of, again, that sort of like, you know, incel, black pill, Sigma, Meale, like all of these, you know, sort of trendy, clickbaity, you know, flashpoint terminology all runs parallel to like the laptop lifestyle type industry, right? And there is an industry now built up around people selling the laptop lifestyle and selling the dream. And sometimes they actually got their lifestyle, which is travel the world, take lots of photos, live in foreign countries, by selling the dream. It's not by doing anything.
Yeah.
So like, what like from your perspective, like where did that all come from? Like what was the birthplace of people selling the dream, like selling a course on how to sell courses or selling the dream rather than actually being like, hey, I started an agency, here's my 10-step process, follow it along. It's like, hey, I started a course on selling courses so you could sell your course for your thing. And now I'm a millionaire. And like what spawned all that?
Yeah. So I'm a marketer, and I'm like, I see all this stuff all day long. Like I see all the info products, I study them, and know all about this stuff. And one thing I would say is right now there is a bit of a stink in the industry of people who are kind of no longer practitioners at doing the thing. And they once upon a time they did the thing, and now they're just teaching the course on how they did the thing, but they're out of the game, and now all their money is coming from teaching their course or their info product on whatever it is they did originally. And what happens is they get kind of their skills get out of date. So, you know, one of the guys I know does teaches people like SMMA stuff, you know, marketing agency. And, you know, they make an agency, and then, you know, they, you know, have good success with that. And then you go teach people how to start a marketing agency. And that's like, you can make a lot of money doing that. Like everyone knows that model works, you know, build an audience and sell an info product to them. Well, what happens is they stop doing the thing, and now suddenly everything they learned, you know, how to run Facebook ads, run Google ads back in the day, how to do the SEO, after 2 years, the space moves so quickly that it's like no longer relevant at all. And so you end up with people selling products that are outdated. Like on Twitter right now, there's a bit of a beef between a guy called Jamie IF and Ricky from Income School. And he's kind of been called out on this because Income School is originally how I learned the skill of SEO. And now they used to have a bunch of sites and they actually used to do the thing. And now they've got this course, it's $500 and they teach you how to do SEO, right? And it's a big business, make a ton of money selling these courses. But SEO has changed so much over the last year or the last few months, even the last month. It's just completely been tipped upside down. And now basically a lot of almost everything within this course doesn't work anymore at all. And so this guy was calling him out saying like, how can you, with a straight face, be marketing this product, this info product to someone when it just doesn't work? And, it's like, on the one hand, you're like, well, what's he supposed to do? Like, this has all happened fairly recently where, his strategies got out of date because of, various Google updates or whatever. Does he just completely dismantle their business overnight and like just start, burning cash? But like the thing is, so what you should always do, I think, is, and I'm all for it, by the way, I'm all for people selling the laptop lifestyle if the product's good and it's valuable to whoever's buying it. But I would always just be very careful to make sure whoever you're buying from is actually still a practitioner of the thing that they're teaching. So one guy, I do a bit of lead generation. So there's a style of lead generation called rank and rent, where you'll sort of try and rank for roofing contractors, Tennessee, and you'll build a website and you'll get these leads through Google and you'll sell them to local business owners in Tennessee. And one of the guys I follow, Nick Wood, he has a course that teaches people how to do this, but his whole shtick is that he's deep in the weeds still. He's still doing the thing. And people, I think, respond really well because he's still out there on like sales calls every day, like trying to do the thing. He's still super aware of what changes are happening because it moves so quickly that even if he just stopped doing rank and rent for a year, like his product would be 70%, no longer as valuable. So yeah, exactly. And it's like anything with, internet business, make money online, marketing, techie stuff, especially with AI now, everything is just changing so damn quick that it's hard, man. It's hard to just know what works and what's good. And so, yeah, I get it. It's tough for both sides. It's tough for the consumer and it's also tough for business owners because, Google right now, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but I wonder if you're not really in the sort of SEO space, but do you have any thoughts or feelings around your experience using Google lately? Have you noticed anything different?
Yeah, it's probably been the last 6 to 12 months, I guess, predominantly like, kind of triggering my awareness 6 months ago and more. And then in the last 6 months and sooner, it's been like very palpable, the change in like my ability to find things. And I actually don't
fucking hard to find anything you're looking for now, dude.
And I feel like it's almost worse than that. You can find anything and everything to confirm your current bias, whatever question you have. You can type in like, are avocados good for my health? And you'll find like 3 pages of avocado reviews and papers and clinical trials about how good avocados are. And then you type in, are avocados bad for my health? And you'll find 3 pages of avocado clinical papers saying that it's terrible for you, it's full of fat and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, I can't find anything meaningful that actually cuts through the noise of truth. And so I've stopped I use Perplexity now for almost everything because it does.
Dude, I'm straight up unironically using Bing now because I'm getting better results from Bing.
Jesus.
Like Google, yeah, like I'm in the SEO space and like just if you go on SEO Twitter, it's just every day it's just more and more people just like posting like the most absurd results from like, what would have otherwise been normal Google searches, but like there was one where it was like, is it a good idea to let my children play in traffic or something? And the response from like the SGE was like absolutely nuts. But like, so like,
It's not that someone actually asked that question, but hey,
I think they were trying to look for some damning
trigger the
evidence.
engine.
But yeah, but so like now what people are doing is they're appending to the end of their search queries like colon before 2023 or before colon 2023.
I've seen this trend.
Because it's like it's completely fucked. And so like my previous businesses, the two I've just sold were all like, I had websites doing like product reviews, like in the fitness space and stuff, and I've lost 70-80% of my traffic, along with everyone else in the space who built a website and used organic search to get traffic. Like it's all just gone. It's gone to Reddit. It's gone to the massive handful of Forbes. It's gone to Healthline. It's gone to like there's like 13 massive websites that own like 70%
giant media
of
properties.
the internet. Yeah, and so it's like this space, like people had massive portfolios of niche websites that they were building, a couple years ago because it was a great way to make money online, and now it's impossible. Like you cannot. There is no one on earth right now that can tell you how to reliably make more than $1,000 a month from Google or from SEO, outside of like local SEO and stuff. And it's like, okay, like I started a business in this space a couple years ago, and now I'm looking for other things because it's changed so much that it's no longer a viable option. So like you kind of having to search for those things instead of kind of, if you're thinking about like starting an online business, maybe moving overseas to work online, I would say instead of focusing so much on a particular methodology or a particular tactic to make money, instead just like kind of go back one step and go back to first principles and just like learn a skill that is valuable to people. And just kind of think of it on that level. Like for me, and I think a lot of people now would agree that the most valuable skill for making money online is writing. When I was growing up, I was really good at writing, and I was like, I was so annoyed. I'm like, this is such a useless skill. Like, who's ever gonna make any money of writing? I'm like, maybe I could write a novel, but like, no one makes money writing books. And nowadays, I'm like, holy shit! Like everything involves writing. If you want to make a YouTube video, you got to write a script. If you want to write a thread on Twitter and build an audience on Twitter, you got to learn how to write scripts or threads rather. And if you've got a website, you want to sell a product, you need to be able to write a sales page. It's like everything comes back to like these fundamental skills. And so like, yeah, I would, and really, if you just get really good at writing or insert preferred skill here, the money will follow. Like you don't even have to really think about how it's going to look. Like it'll just come together when you can make value with your words. Or if you're doing, people are always going to need like, to advertise, or people are always going to need lead generation. Wherever a business exists, it's going to, their business owners are going to need ways to get more leads. So instead of like following this one super niche down, like, course on doing this really specific tactic, like right now there's this thing on Reddit where if you go on Reddit, you can leave comments on like pretty much any post and just like hyperlink to like your affiliate link. So, best blender 2024, you can just go in and comment and like put your Amazon link there and just like make really good money doing this. Like I know people making tens of thousands doing just commenting on Reddit with affiliate links. But it's going to get nerfed. Yeah, it's going to get nerfed like everything else. So how it works is, like I'm in the fitness, vertical jump training space, teach athletes how to jump higher. Right now, if you Google best vertical jump program, my article used to be number one. Now it's behind the Reddit thread where, it's just people, asking each other, what's a good vertical jump program? Which ones have you done? If I just go in there and just leave a comment like, yeah, I did this one, yeah, here's the links. Now that's like going to show up on Google for everyone. Every time someone searches, best vertical jump program.
Wow. So now, like all of the effort you put into writing an article has been superseded by one Reddit comment.
Right. Exactly. And you know what? The Reddit and Google are now in a are big cahoots apparently, because they've just signed some deal where Google is allowed to use Reddit, all the content on Reddit, to train their AI. And so like recently the biggest change in search results were all of our blog articles got pushed way down and Reddit's just at the top. Like Reddit traffic has gone up like hundreds of millions per month just from this last update. And it's because Google's in bed with them basically. But yeah, so like that's an example of a tactic, right? A gimmicky thing that is, it's not a real business, but it's definitely a way to make money. But, you know, in another 6 months, it'll be nerfed. It won't work. Facebook right now, Facebook traffic, if you build a page, you can pay ads to pay people to like the page, and then you just start posting a specific kind of article that's kind of clickbaity, and people will click from Facebook onto your article. You have a bunch of ads on the page, and people just want to see what happened to the dog that got rescued, that was in the drain, and they just end up scrolling through this. You've probably seen it, like these BuzzFeed type articles. It's just full of ads, and you make good money from those articles. But again, Facebook traffic got nerfed once, and it will get nerfed again because everyone and their dog is doing this. And so it's not a real business. It's not a real skill. It's like, this is the kind of flavor of the month where this is, people are making disgraceful amounts of money from Facebook right now. But I would never advise anyone go and try these tactics, because it's just not going to be something that's going to be around, you know, in 8 months or in 8 years from now. It's just not. Man,
I love that reference, because those BuzzFeed type articles where it's literally just like there's more ad content than there is article content, and it reminds me of, if you've seen Ready Player One, there's this scene in the movie where Nolan Sorrento, who runs I can't remember the name of the Iowa, which is like the bad corporation that's trying to take over the metaverse that they play in, and he's like pitching the board of directors of his company this sort of concept for a marketing upgrade when he finally takes over the Oasis. I think it's called the Oasis. And he's got a picture of the new headset UI, like the HUD, the heads-up display, and he's like, we've calculated that we can cover the entire HUD with 93% ads before we elicit seizures from the players.
It's exactly how I feel in the website space, man. Like, display ads have gotten out of control. Like, yeah, people are making, just for like reference, like some people make between like $30 and $50 per 1,000 page views, which is actually really, really good money. Like, it's not hard to get 1,000 page views per month on an article, and so you're getting $30 a pop from, you know, these display ad companies, and you got 100 articles that are all pulling in, you know, 1,000. You're making $3,000 a month just from these ads. But again, this year actually, Google Chrome is rolling out they're removing third-party cookies, which means the targeting of these ads are going to be basically nerfed. So like those $30 RPMs might go down to $5. Like it might just completely ruin the display ads, which, to be honest, good riddance, because no one enjoys, you know, trying to read the text when there's like a video ad and an ad here and an ad here. It's a disgusting experience. So I'm actually kind of glad to see that Google is no longer rewarding that kind of behavior. But yeah, you can still get a bunch of traffic from Pinterest and Facebook, man, if you play the game. But
I've definitely, like, I've been on both sides of this, like working in marketing and trying to figure out, you know, attribution and like cross-device tracking and like, you know, how do we follow up people with our retargeting, and then also being a consumer when you're scrolling through the internet and being like, God damn it, I'm sick of seeing that freaking ad for the lawnmower 15.0 that's going to shave my balls better than they've ever been shaved for the 15th time today. Like, just leave me alone. Yeah. I watched a podcast, I saw the thing, I clicked on it, and now it follows me everywhere. And so you kind of like, you know, I see both sides, but I see the opportunity from a business perspective. I see the frustration from a consumer perspective. But I like your point on like learning a skill rather than falling into the flavor of the month or the tactic of the day, because it literally is just like, to your point, you know, Google's going to remove third-party cookies sometimes this year, and it just trashes that business that we just spoke about in terms of article. Maybe not, but like it's probably going to have a pretty significant impact on those RPMs. So like you kind of answered my next question in advance, but like maybe to dig into it a little bit deeper, what are the types of businesses or niches, maybe not niches because that's a slightly different phrase, but what are the businesses inside the make money online industry that you think are actually worth like investing time and effort into?
Yeah. So again, like some businesses are going to go up, some are going to go down based on, it's going to be very, very hard to see how AI affects this whole industry. And, what's working now might not be a thing in 5 years. We might not, there might not be a work in, there might be UBI that AI might be so good in 5 years that you just don't have to work. But like, if we sort of just go with what we have now, I think, again, you got to think from first principles, like, what can I do that other people can't do that they'll pay me money to do? Basically, that's kind of what it is. So right now I do marketing for a tattoo studio in Brisbane, and I do everything. Right now we're redesigning the website. So I've been building websites since I was 9. So I have the skill of web design. I have done the last 3-4 years SEO. So I know SEO, that's another skill. And I've been learning ads, so like Facebook ads, Google ads, advertising. So I think, and it makes sense because, like, if you're running a tattoo studio, you don't know how to do this stuff. And I've talked to the owners, and they just don't want to learn how to do it. I'm like, running ads is pretty easy. Like, you can pick it up pretty quick if you know anything about marketing. It's not that hard, and the fact is, business owners just don't want to do this. If you're talking to a roofing contractor in Tennessee, they won't ever be able to make a website. They just won't. They will never ever make a website in their life. Period. And so, if you have the skill where you can, of course, you need to actually convince them that there is value in having this thing. So, yeah, I would say any of these sort of, I think marketing is really big. So SMMA, it's kind of seems a bit saturated because every man and their dog is doing it. But there is so many businesses that need marketing. Think about all the brick and mortar home service businesses. Someone does windshield replacements in X city, or someone's a fencer over here. Like, these are all sort of heavily brick and mortar oriented businesses. People that run them have no idea about digital marketing. And the fact of the matter is we live in an online world now. Everything's online. So these businesses can benefit hugely by having the right sort of online presence. And so I think anything to do with marketing online is really, really valuable. So SMMA, social media marketing agencies, I think are still a good model. More recently, we're looking at sort of people are calling it a growth partnership, which is basically the same thing as an SMMA, except the issue with traditional agencies like these is that the incentives are all messed up. So say you want me to do your Facebook ads, you're going to pay me $2,000 a month to do your Facebook ads. I run a Facebook ad agency, that's the price, it's $2,000, and I'll do your ads for you. Me as the agency owner, I'm incentivized to spend as little time as possible doing your ads and go out and get as many clients as possible so I can scale my business. I have to do the bare minimum every month to ensure I don't get fired, so that you keep me on that $2,000 retainer. And so what ends up happening is you get frustrated as a business owner because I'm not really innovating. I'm doing the bare minimum just to kind of keep things ticking over. And really, I'm not incentivized to go and spend an extra 3 hours this month doing, this sweet new ad campaign, because I'm still just getting paid the same amount as I did last month. So why would I work harder? And so this is a problem with so many agencies right now in the marketing space. And it can be solved really easily by changing sort of the incentive structure. And so what kind of a partnership that I have now with this tattoo studios is, it's still kind of SMMA, but I've framed it as a growth partnership, which is where I essentially get paid a percentage of revenue. And when you get paid a percentage of revenue, you have skin in the game, right? And so I'm now incentivized to really innovate when it comes to the Facebook ads, because I know if my ads really perform extremely well, I'm going to make more money for the business. It's going to make more money for me. I'm incentivized to go and make this website redesign that I'm doing now really, really, really good, because it's going to set up this foundation for this business to be, epic, a few years from now. And so it's just about finding, being smart with the way you structure deals, in particularly in marketing, and I'm sure really anything like this, and making sure your incentives are just aligned with the business owner, whether you're in marketing, whether you're just pulling like random things out here like copywriting. I guess that's still just marketing, right? You know, you can go down the freelancing route, which is essentially, it's the same thing. You're learning a skill as a freelancer, but you're kind of just an employee. I prefer, I have a fairly high risk tolerance. I prefer the whole business/agency approach. Some people might prefer to be a freelancer, which is, again, you work with clients in the same manner, but it doesn't really scale because you're kind of operating as a one-man band compared to, it's the same thing. If you own an agency doing the same thing, but you can now bring on employees to deliver the service. So again, that kind of just depends, like what's your skill level. Like if you're a beginner, you're probably going to be a freelancer until you get some experience, get a bit of a portfolio going, get some results with someone. And also, yeah, what's your risk tolerance? Some people don't want to have the responsibility of running a business, which is fair enough. I really hate the idea of earning like X dollars and like having a pretty hard ceiling on my earning potential. It feels suffocating to me. Whereas if I'm doing the same thing, but it's my own business, yeah, there's some risk, but I can scale it into whatever I want. And you kind of get out what you put in. Whereas, if you're just doing a work remote job or a freelancing thing, it's like, there's very few jobs in the world where you can reliably earn more than, six figures, around 100 to 200K. Like, man, even if you're a lawyer or a doctor, like these people aren't earning much more than 200 grand a year. The only job you can have where you're going to earn $1 million a year is like some sort of sales thing where it's commission based, right? They just don't exist. So you have to, if you want to make a lot of money, you have to start your own business. There's just no ways around it, or be it like an epic salesman, basically.
The time for money model is just not a way to
it's
scale.
terrible.
Like it's safe, but it's not.
It's not safe. It's not safe either, because the only way to really have true financial security is to have a skill that that if you lost everything tomorrow, you could go and earn money again. And so a lot of people who have a salary, they have a job, actually have this facade of security because they're getting paid this salary every month. But if they lose their job, suddenly they're actually kind of fucked, because they don't have that deep-seated belief or knowledge that they are just good enough to go and do it again. Like, I was watching an Ali Abdaal video yesterday, and he's like, man, if I lost it all, like I know within like 8 weeks I make $1 million again. It's like that, whether you have a job or a business, like that is the degree. If we want to talk about financial security, like that is what people should be optimizing for, is to have so much skill in whatever it is, and confidence, self-belief that you can go and do it again, go and get money again. If that's the case, then like you have zero risk starting a business. If you're that good, like you can just go and start throwing shit at the wall, because you know that if it goes wrong, like, all right, like I have these skills are worth real money that I can't lose. There's no version of reality where I go to zero. But a lot of people that have that day job, they're actually fucked and they don't even know it. They're just hiding behind this, just because someone's employed you for the last 8 weeks, you don't really have that much value to the marketplace if you happen to go back onto the marketplace.
Yeah, that's actually such a really powerful way of reframing the whole financial like security and independence piece. And to your point around jobs, right? Like you could say, okay, well, that doesn't apply to me because I've been working with the same company for 8 years, or I've been in the same sector for 10 years, and I've got a great resume with like 3 or 4 of the top best firms in my industry. It's like, okay, well, what happens if the global financial crisis hits and banking gets wiped out and 3 of the major firms in your industry go down and no one's looking to rehire you, and you're a narrow focused, single skilled individual who's been relying on your boss or some other company for the last 10 years. And now there's 1,000 other people just like you in the same city you live in applying for 10 jobs. It's like,
good luck.
Good luck with that. But like the idea of being financially secure and financially independent being a definition of, if the rug got pulled out from under my feet and I lost everything, tomorrow I could start again, and within a reasonable period of time, provided the world didn't end, but within a reasonable period of time, I'd be back on my feet. Like, that's such a more powerful way of defining it, because even the money in your bank is like really not that secure. There's a lot. It
doesn't matter. Exactly. The money in the bank's not secure, but also just having the money in the bank, it doesn't give you anywhere near
counterparty risk.
Well, but even just the peace of mind. Like, if I've got $1 million in the bank right now, like that gives me some peace of mind. But what really gives me peace of mind is knowing that, like, I'm untouchable. Like, I'm so valuable that I can just, it doesn't matter. Like, $1 million has no meaning when I can just go and make, $500,000 a year if I just press the button and go start doing that. And there's some people that are good enough to just go and start an agency. They've done it. One of the guys I follow is like onto his 5th agency. They've all been 7-figure agencies, and he's the kind of guy that's got a skill set where, if he sells it up, or if everything goes wrong, like, he's got another $1 million agency within 5 months, like, because he knows how to do that. It's a real. It's got nothing to do with money. It's more just about peace of mind for me. But also on this subject, one other thing some advice I would give to people is to look into this idea of the $1 trillion Venn diagram of success. It's a concept where if you sort of take a skill that you have, say it's copywriting, and then you take another skill, say it's whatever interest you have, like, I don't know. For me, I'll just use me as an example of how this works. So, like, for me, let's say my skill is SEO, right? So I'm in this great big pool of people that know SEO at least as good as me or better. So that's the one circle on the Venn diagram. In the second Venn diagram circle, and this is where you kind of generate that insane amount of value that makes it very difficult to compete against. For me, volleyball. I played volleyball for a lot of years, played at the international level, know it pretty well, right? So, like, my technical knowledge of the sport of volleyball, very high. So over here I've got SEO, over here I've got volleyball. And these two worlds, when they collide, when they overlap in the middle, there's like no one in the world basically who knows more, who is more equipped to do SEO in the volleyball space, right? And so I made a website called Volleyball Vault, which I sold recently, luckily before all of the horrific updates. And when I was building this website, I was writing articles about volleyball and, doing SEO to get traffic and then monetizing with product reviews and stuff. And I was looking at my competition, and, I was competing against, high school volleyball coaches, 19-year-old, student sort of players who, these are volleyball players. They know a bit about volleyball, but they don't know jack shit about SEO or writing or blogging or websites. And so I'm just out here absolutely just dominating everyone in the space, because I've kind of paired up these two skills that ended up complementing each other quite well in that instance. And so when you're thinking about skill acquisition, you got to think about how you can create an overlap of two complementary skills that could work extremely well together. Because if you just go and learn copywriting, or if you just go and learn SEO, like, you're just in this massive pool of people that can also do that thing. Whereas if you can get a second skill that you're pretty good at, and they actually complement each other. So, like, the example that's really, really difficult is, like, I think like copywriting and like long distance swimming. Like these skills are like pretty hard to sort of, reconcile, make work together. But if you're like a good programmer and you're really smart at accounting, you're going to make a fucking SaaS for some sort of, financial services thing, and you're going to crush it. Like that kind of overlap is worth a ton of money. And so, yeah, I would think from as like another first principle thing, just go and get really fucking good at something. Like just go and be better than everyone at something. Become an expert, basically. Now in this world, it's a globalized society where we only kind of listen to experts. We have access to everyone, right? No longer are we learning maths from the best math tutor in our local area. We're on YouTube learning math from the best math teachers in the world, right? And so it's the same. Our competition now is the whole world. And so if you want to really produce value for the marketplace, you need to develop a level of expertise. So always be thinking about that as well as your sort of your $1 trillion Venn diagram. I think is a great place to start when you're sort of thinking about what you want to do in the business world.
What are the red flags? What are the bullshit 90% full of fake gurus? Avoid this at all costs. Pitfalls that people should look out for.
Yeah. Well, right now I would say SEO. Unfortunately, it's just good luck making money in SEO unless you're doing it local. It has been nuked hard, man. Red flags, honestly, like I don't really think there's any sort of, I think kind of by virtue of like efficient markets, like if there's something that's real dodgy, it's just not going to. Oh, okay, here's a pet peeve of mine is trading. People just think they can go and whip out TradingView and draw some lines, some trend lines on a chart, and now they're trading crypto in Thailand. You're not going to make money at all ever. You're competing against like massive hedge funds with like quant algorithms and supercomputers that are just like, there is no way you can make money in this market unless you're spending every minute of every day living and breathing trading. Okay, so trading is a lot like poker, online poker actually. That's another one. Online poker has basically become very close to unbeatable at the highest levels now, because the real-time assistance, i.e. people cheating with AI, you can literally solve game trees in real time now. That's how good the software has gotten. And so I used to be able to sit down and fire up 4 tables and just play online, all day. And now people are doing the same thing, but they've got little software running on the side that tells them what to do, what to bet, when to fold, all this stuff. And you've also got these sort of bots, you've got people cheating. It's like, there's money in the casinos still. There's always going to be money in the casino, but online poker, that's another one I would just not even go close to. Yet trading, just don't even, like, if you want to go and be a trader, sweet, but you're going to have to put in thousands and thousands of hours of like hard work to learn this thing, invest a lot of money in becoming like a proper professional trader. I met some guy, I was walking on the beach the other day, and some guy comes up to me, he's like, "Oh, nice motorbike, man." He's like, asked me what am I doing and stuff, and I asked him like, what are you up to here? He's like, "Oh, I just moved here and I've just sort of like just started trading actually. It's been going really good." And I could just tell like he's not a trader, and thinks he's a trader. He's not a trader, thinks he's a trader, and he's just gonna get absolutely wrecked. Like eventually, it's so easy to win 5 trades in a row and think you're a trader. Same way in poker, it's so easy to win a tournament early in your career for like 100 grand, and then think you're like winning at poker, and then just like bleed money for like the next 5 years because you don't have the skill to beat the game. So yeah, I would stay away from both.
I can speak to the trading one. I can speak to that for sure personally, because I spent a lot of time trading and I got pretty good. But I also got gifted with some pretty good market environments. Trading throughout the early, mid and late teens was kind of on autopilot and easy mode. And then you had the crypto craziness where you could pretty much buy anything and make money. And so there's a lot of gifts that I got given that assisted me through that process. And I always used to say to people when they were getting into trading, like, they'd ask me questions about it because they'd see me posting things. And I always used to say, like, there's no graduation from trading, or I should say there's no gradient in trading. You're either playing practice mode or you're playing professional big leagues, NBA, NHL. There's nothing in between. And as soon as you step out for that demo account, because you have to get the exposure is not drawing lines and clicking buttons. The exposure is the mindset. How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your money? It's the same stuff you would have experienced in poker, right? It's like you can be a great poker player on sim, and then as soon as you put real cash on the table, everything changes. Completely. And so you've got to go straight to the big leagues against, to your point, the quants, the financial institutions, these guys who have more capital and money and resources than you can even imagine, and they're deploying. Like there's a war going on, or at least it's been going on for a while now. It's probably pretty much settled, but there was a war going on for a very long time where different financial institutions would essentially acquire property as close as they possibly could to the clearinghouses, so that they could have shorter. Exactly, they could have shorter fiber optic cables.
That's what you're competing against. It's like, are you kidding me? You think you're making money when there's people doing that kind of stuff to get an edge on the market? Like, I actually go ahead.
I was gonna say, you get, like, to your point, you win 5 trades, you think you're a genius, you pass your challenge account, and then who knows, something happens in your life that derails your psychological state. Your relationship turfs, or your family member, or a crisis, or a health issue. You injure yourself. You can't train. You can't do the things that keep you mentally acute and focused. And all of a sudden, your trading goes out the window. It's like it's not this rosy dream that it is sold online in terms of, like, and the screenshots and all that stuff is so faked. Like you that is one of the areas, like, to your point around pet peeves, like the people who are posting proof of trading success online with screenshots, misleading people with fake account numbers and saying, hey, come and buy my signals or buy my course. Like, that is rampant, and it is a tidal wave that is almost impossible to paddle through, dive under, or get over the top of in order to find any real, like, significantly good quality traders. They're just buried under the bullshit, and you can't trust.
That's another one for me is the red flags is the whole crypto space. Just like selling the pipe dream to people. Like you just said it, like the amount of, like, big YouTube influencers in the crypto space that are giving trading signals and stuff, and, like, they're actually making their money by doing, like, affiliate for the big exchanges, right? Sign up, get my deposit bonus. It's like, one of them, like, I think it's Four Flies or something, straight up calling him out. Like, if you want to make money in crypto, just, like, counter trade whatever that guy does. Like, his calls are so reliably horrific that, like, you could actually make good money. Like, we have a kind of a joke in our little group chat about some of these gurus, how, like, they're almost like, you can literally counter trade and make better money than listening to what they say. But yeah, like, also, like, and I played poker for 10 years, right? So I get, when you're talking about the mental game thing, you can't even begin to imagine what it's like when if you just learn trading, you don't get to experience what it's like to get slapped in the face repeatedly until you're actually there in the weeds. And then you don't have any experience. You don't know how you are going to handle the swings. You don't know how you're going to react. And in poker, it's real big. Like, the variance in poker, even for the best players in the world, is a lot bigger than it is for the best traders in the world. And so you got guys losing 50 grand a month, losing tens of thousands each month, and, like, we're only winning 55% of sessions. So, like, half the time you sit down to play, you're losing money. And if I learn anything from poker, it's to have a big risk tolerance, and it's to sort of kind of just don't care that much about money now. Like, when a lot of people will lose some money because of whatever. Like, my $600 pair of sunglasses fell off while I was driving the other day. It ran over by a car behind me, and it's like I don't care at all. Whereas, like, because I'm so used to losing money that it just kind of feels numb. So I think there was some benefits that I got from poker, and I would say one of the superpowers is having the massive risk tolerance to where I can go out and build a business, or I can go and dump 70% of my net worth into Bitcoin because I think it's going up in the long run. Like, I'm perfectly happy to do that because I'm okay with losing the money. And so, like, this is just kind of a life rule in general. When you're young and you're healthy, and particularly if you don't have any dependents, like, you should be making massive, massive bets just in life in general. Like, you should be swinging for the fences because, like, worst case scenario, like, you have nothing to lose. Like, if you lose everything, it goes to zero. Okay, just start again. So you can't really do that in your 50s when you're thinking about retirement or whatever. You can't just bet the house on something. So I would also say, if you're young and you're thinking about moving overseas, like, yeah, start swinging for the fences, because as long as you're healthy and you're relatively switched on, your life's not completely, you're not a complete degenerate or whatever, like, you're gonna be fine, man.
Yeah, and I think so many people are so afraid of failure and so afraid of, like, oh, what if it doesn't work? It's like, what do you mean, what if it doesn't work? Like, what you're doing now isn't working. And I can tell you that definitively because you're looking for something else. Like,
yeah.
you're not happy where you are. You're trying to escape the current fabric of your existence. And you're scared if what the thing that you're looking at that might unlock this new pathway in life doesn't work out. And you're procrastinating on making that decision by staying in a situation that's already not working for you. And I can say that from experience. Like, I've been in that moment. I've been in that situation where you sit there and you go, oh, you know, like, am I good enough? Am I going to be able to do this? What about this? Like, what if my hair's not right? What if the lighting setup isn't great? What if people notice that I'm like uncomfortable or something, or, you know, I stutter, or I say the word too much? Like, fuck all that. Get it out of your head. You're already in an uncomfortable situation. You're probably better off going into a slightly more or different uncomfortable situation and learning something and trying something and growing and giving it a shot than you are staying where you're currently at and just constantly fantasizing about a better life. Like, just take the leap.
Yeah, like, not to get too philosophical on you, but, like, this fear of failure it really annoys me, because people have this idea that things that happen to them are either good or bad, and it's just not true. So, like, imagine the worst possible thing happened tomorrow and your whole world just comes crumbling down. Whatever it is, for, you know, everyone's got a different situation. Maybe it's someone very close dying and then you don't know what to do for money. It's losing your job and then you're fucked and you're in a bunch of debt and you don't know what to do. Everything's just falling apart, right? This happens to people throughout life, you know, from time to time, where just the worst thing that could happen happens, right? Cancer diagnosis, you become a quadriplegic. Isn't it funny how, like, when you look back in 10 years or 15 years, you're like, fuck, like, I'm actually really glad that happened. Like, I wouldn't go back and change that if I could. I actually don't regret that happened. You know, there's so many accounts of people saying, like, oh, my cancer diagnosis was the best thing that had ever happened to me. Like, there's kind of, if you go further enough forward and you look back on these moments in life that you think are just destroying you at the time, like, normally there's some really, really strong silver lining that actually it might end up being a net positive. And usually it's never going to be, I would say, honestly, it's like, it's to the point where the universe generally has your back so much where that there's almost no bad things that can happen to anyone ever. And so it's like, when you have that kind of mindset towards, even if the worst possible case scenario happens, it's still going to be working for you. It's like, how can you not? Like, even the worst case is a positive. So it's like, just throw yourself into it. There's no such thing as failure.
I got a few things on this because I think it's really it's so powerful. DeMartini, if you don't know who he is, you should look him up. Dr. John DeMartini, he's an absolute wizard. He's got a sort of strong belief and observed reality that everything is in balance. You know, there is no good or bad. It is the perception of the situation rather than the reality of the situation. And it's easy to perceive things as good or bad because quite often the good and the bad are not temporally associated. So you'll experience an event, you'll get a swing of good, and then you'll get a swing of bad, and then you'll come back to a point of balance and poise, and everything is neutral. And he talks about, you know, the vibration because it's a sinusoidal wave of good and bad experience, and the rate at which you can decrease your perception and understanding of both the good and bad outcomes of every event and get back to a point of unity and balance. That is an increase in frequency, and obviously the higher frequency, the sort of like faster you can move through things. The second thing is there is a Chinese proverb, which I will butcher, but give piece of to exemplify this. And it's a story about a farmer, and he has a son, and everyone says, "Oh, you know, you got a firstborn son. How lucky you are!" And he says, "Oh, maybe." And then his son grows up to be nice and strong, and he breaks his leg, you know, running one day in the park, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's so unfortunate. His son broke his leg."
We'll
he said,
see.
"Oh, maybe."
We'll see.
And then, yeah, and then the emperor's men come knocking on the door for inscription for a war, but his son can't go because the leg's broken. And they say, "Oh, he's so lucky, your son's leg's broken." Oh, maybe, you know. And then it goes on and on and on. There's a few other pieces to that, and I'm obviously butchering it.
I know the exact one you're saying. Yeah, it's exactly
the story that you tell yourself about the situation is almost always going to be just a transient perception of what's going on, but ironically it is also far more important than the situation itself. It's like, it's not what happens to you, it's what you tell yourself what happens to you and what you do next.
Yeah, it's like we talk about in the poker industry, you know, these motherfuckers will just come along in their first month of being pro and win like $1 million tournament, and you're like so jealous. You're like, fuck, that must, just imagine that feeling, like shipping $1 million when you're like, you're worth, you've got no money in the bank. It must be amazing. But then, like, you know, you see what happens. It's like, it's kind of lured them into a false sense of ability, and then they'll spend the next 5 years just like draining the cash away and like living a miserable life, and they're end up in a worse spot than they were before they'd won. And this happens to people that win the lottery as well. It's like all the money ends up gone, and they're just no happier than they were originally. And it's like, so you kind of got to look at it both ways, right? But like, I think you can kind of have your cake and eat it too, in the sense that when good things happen, like, you can be happy about them, but like, how useful is it to think like, when bad things happen, okay, it's not actually bad. Like, it's going to come, that sine wave is going to come back around, and it is actually going to work out for me. And I think if people keep that in their back pocket, it's like, it's like, it just gives you an incredible peace of mind, knowing that, yeah, like you're basically invincible in a sense. And like,
it doesn't have to be passive either. Like, you don't have to sit there and just sort of be like, oh, you know, that good thing and this bad experience is going to be here one day. Like, you can actually go through an exercise where you sit down and say, okay, right now already in this moment, what are the things that are invisible to me because my perception is focusing on one side of this event? What are the other sides that are beneficial? What are the things that have not happened yet that are going to be beneficial in the next week, the next month, the next year? And you can kind of map it out. And actually, before you've gotten the experience of those, you know, equilibrating experiences, you can kind of conceptually understand, oh, I see, it's not as bad as I make it out. And at the very least, like, you may not fully, you know, regulate the situation, but you can at least dampen the blow. And the other thing is, it's like, this is a process and an exercise that people are pretty happy to do when it's a negative experience, but it's actually pretty important to do with the positive ones as well. Like, it's important to kind of like temper your excitement in certain situations and bring down that level of, you know, like elation that you experience, because as soon as you start getting overly volatile in one direction, inevitably your emotions will start to be volatile in the other direction as well. You'll fluctuate. So
right, yeah, I've heard people talk about this. I think Sean Puri and Hormozy have spoken, like, when you get a massive business exit, like 9 figures or something, the advice is to like not absolutely lose your shit, like kind of try and keep it together, like it's a massive amount of money hitting your bank account. But I don't understand the full context, but it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, I don't know if it's to do with frequency, like old mate was saying, but really, yeah, like keeping everything as close to this baseline, even if it comes down to like, keeping your dopamine and serotonin in check. Like, I think it's probably healthier to try and temper that if you can. And
it's like,
I've actually
enjoy yourself,
but like, don't go too crazy. Like, I've been thinking about this idea a lot lately, and I was trying to think like, how can I make it really helpful in my life? And so like, there's this issue like at work in our agency, and like had a bit of an issue with something was frustrating me about an employee, and it was kind of annoying me, and I was thinking a bunch about it, and I was losing sleep over it, and it was just this bad feeling in my body towards this thing that was happening. And I was like, I tried to like apply this filter we've been talking about to this event. I'm like, this kind of seems bad and annoying right now, but like, I have full confidence and full faith that this is going to be a good thing for me. Whatever comes of this, however it ends up, like it's going to end up being a positive. And as soon as I had that realization, like that whole yucky feeling in my body of like, how am I going to deal with this situation? It just completely went away. And now I was looking at the situation with like a weird kind of, sadistic like excitement towards the shitness of the situation. Actually kind of excited me to be deep in that again. And I've kind of developed this weird fetish for like things that are bad, like fetishizing the negatives in the world and looking forward to chaos. Like, if you ever kind of just been lately in my life, things have been humming along really nicely, and it's been extremely good. And I've kind of, it's not like boring. It's just kind of like, I kind of really like to optimize for interesting. And if that comes in the form of something negative, like it's kind of almost exciting to me now. And if I think about this idea of how I can make myself anti-fragile as a human being. So if some shit thing happens in my life and that actually ends up serving me because of how I've like contorted this filter in my brain, like is that not like one of the most powerful things you can, like an outlook you can have on the world, to like, even when shit goes wrong, like it only makes you stronger. And it's like, it's something that's only I've been really kind of chewing on for the last couple of months, but it's like, I'm kind of now like fiending for shit to hit the fan, because I'm like, I kind of enjoy that, being in that position of not stasis and just kind of, I don't know, but it's these sort of ideas have become, I think, very useful to really sit and think about, because I don't really get worried or bothered, or I don't get anxious or upset about anything. I don't see myself getting, having negative reactions now to stuff where, after this last case with the business thing, and I feel amazing about that now. It's like I have full confidence that like I can just deal with anything that comes my way. So
it's interesting. I think you're right. It is a superpower, being able to embrace the chaos and embrace the disasters that come along in your life and say, like, I'm going to grow and learn from this. I think the caveat here is maybe like some people don't handle themselves too well, and so there is a mindset shift that's required. But like, I agree with you. For me, it's always been like when shit hits the fan, it's like that's when I get reminded of who I really am. It's like, oh, that's right. Like, I'm that person that when stuff gets crazy, like I double down and I'm in the gym twice a day. I'm learning, I'm reading, like I'm like, purging social media. I'm like reconnecting with people who are inspiring to me. I'm going in and doing my inner work and like recognizing my part to play in the situations that made my life uncomfortable. And like those things, it's like the response that you have to that trigger is really the key. It's a little bit tangential, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of an Alan Watts piece where he talks about, what if you had the ability to dream any dream you ever wanted? And
yes,
you would
eventually dream this exact lifetime that you're living right now, right?
But I think it's more than that, because I like the next piece of that is like, you would dream something that was so unpredictable and that was full of chaos and randomness, and it was full of the unexpected, and it was full of something that's just around the corner that's going to derail your whole life. And that's the excitement. That's what's going to happen next? Like, how am I going to be able to deal with this? What's the next challenge? And so adopting that mindset and kind of, to your point, fetishizing and seeking out, not necessarily creating, without reason, but like getting very prepared and excited for the next thing that's going to kind of reintroduce you to, that phase of your life where things are going to have to shift. You're going to have to accelerate. You're going to have to grow and change and evolve. That's like that mindset tweak, I think, is super powerful.
Yeah. Not to get too down this path, but recently
we're already down it.
We're already here. Fuck it. Let's
fucking go.
I did a heroic dose of mushrooms recently, and as I was at the peak of this trip, I was in this space where I had this incredibly overwhelming sense of everything in the universe being exactly where it ought to be. Like, everything was perfect. Like, not an atom was out of place, and it was just this deep knowing, like, anything you do, you'll be looked after, and everything is perfect. You cannot put a foot wrong, like, in this life. Like, it is perfection as it is. And like, I was just sitting in that space for like 2 hours, like letting this idea sort of marinate in my body, and it stuck with me for a long time. Like, after that trip, it's like I still kind of believe that, and still feel I remember exactly what that feeling was like, to have complete knowledge that there is no bad. Like, it is just perfect, like utter perfection, like how it is, and you don't have to change anything, you don't have to do anything differently. Like, it's just perfect. And again, these are just tools we can have to, when we think about and reflect about these ideas. It makes you pretty tough to compete with, I think, when I've got this sort of running my mentality as I look out at the world, compared with a lot of people that aren't, delving into this sort of stuff. They're probably, dealing with the same issues that everyone else is, a little bit too much anxiety, a little bit too much depression. Meanwhile, I'm like chilling out here, knowing that I know exactly what God is, because of the same sort of experiences, right? I know exactly what needs to be done, what doesn't. I have this great sense of just equanimity and peace, just with like everything. And that's pretty useful when you're starting a new business, when you're doing entrepreneurship, when your battery in your light runs out, all these things.
All these crazy things.
You got to be prepared, man. So I would again, not so much business advice, but like just life advice in general. Like, go and take more time to think and reflect, I think, is a big thing, because in this world is so chaotic now that we seem to be so busy, we don't have time to just kind of sit and think about our thoughts and think about how we think of things. And that's something I've been making a lot of time to do lately, just sort of philosophizing and sort of trying to get clear in my mind, what are my values, what are my principles, how do I want to show up in this world, and it's very relaxing to sort of do that kind of inner work, where it's, you can kind of sit there on YouTube and watch a bunch of personal development or read a bunch of books, but until you kind of just sit there with your mind and get real clear on how you think, I think you're kind of leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah, it's like you can do your 20 minutes in the morning meditation and be blissed and zenned out and mindful about, the universe and everything. But then if you're still tilted and triggered and, on edge and everything for the rest of your day, it's like your morning routine didn't mean shit, bro. So let me, if you're all right to give me 5, I'll not even 5, I'll take 2 minutes, I'll grab another light.
No worries, mate. Take your time.
To your point, though, I think that is a superpower. Like, being the mindset you have, that like equanimity you feel is absolutely superpower. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Hold on, say that again. I didn't have headphones on.
I was just gonna say, like, you could always just leave it on maximize on my thing for the rest if you didn't have a light, but it looks like you're good.
This one, actually, I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to be doing this well, but it seems to be okay. I have new lighting coming for anyone who is currently calling me a rookie in the chat. which is totally fair. I am, but the lighting is on the way, and this will not happen again. I was
At the
wondering
end
how
of
long
the
that
day,
would
like
last.
what we mentioned earlier, it doesn't fucking matter at all. Like you could just have zero, like you can, it's a podcast, right? There is no visual element. And yeah, it's going on YouTube, but like people aren't watching, they're listening. So it's whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also like, you can panic about the fact that like, oh no, my light ran out of battery, but it's like
Exactly.
like the wasted effort and energy you spend paranoid about
Exactly.
that moment is
Not a
just
good trade-off, bad
completely,
transaction.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's bring this back. I love the direction we took it, and we can
We'll have to
we
do
can
a
riff on that.
full-blown psychedelic philosophy episode sometime.
Oh,
I'd
mate.
be happy to do that.
I would love
tomorrow.
to. We'll have to riff on it. Oh, look, you'll be back. Don't worry about that. Couple of questions to bring it home. Top 3 most unexpected challenges that you faced when packing up your life, moving to Thailand, and building a laptop business. What was the
Yeah,
challenges?
so I'd say probably the first one is when you're kind of like self-employed as a knowledge worker, you have a certain amount of, you often don't have a certain amount of work you need to do each week. You have to kind of decide how you're going to work. What's that going to look like? And so for me, back when I was playing poker, online poker is very mentally challenging. It burns a lot of calories. You're literally making thousands of decisions every hour, and that just absolutely drains you. And so I was really struggling. Like, do I work 6 days a week for, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours a day? Or do I do 7 days a week with 4 or 5 hours? Or do I do 5 days and have 2 days off? And so it's like managing like your work schedule is something that is tough, because you're out here in Thailand, you're 200 meters away from the beach. There's beautiful women all around you. You can literally go out night clubbing at midday on a Monday if you want in this town. There is temptation all around. So figuring out a schedule and keeping yourself accountable is tricky. And it's something, again, it's a skill that you need to learn after doing it for a while. So now I've gotten pretty good. I know which hours of the day I'm most productive. I know that between the hours of 5 and 8 in the morning, I can just do so much more output. My deep work is deeper. I know in the evenings, I'm usually having to put sort of less cognitively intense tasks towards the end of the day, because your brain just kind of turns to mush eventually. So you kind of got to set up your day in a strategic way if you want to get really good output. And when you're running a business, there's basically unlimited work at any time, right? So it's really important that you get good at doing, like, people often will try and do busy work to seem busy, and this is kind of a job mentality. When you're running a business, you have to be pulling the big levers. You have to be doing the most important thing first. You have to be moving the big things. And if you're like letting yourself get distracted by emails or like text or girls or whatever, when you should be doing like some deep coding, like some deep work, you're really going to struggle. So I've gotten good at what's his name? Deep Work, great book for this. Anything by Rian Doris as well, from the Flow Research Collective. There's a lot of research now on how to work and how to not only work but like maximize your output. Blocking off certain times of the day, like just having, if you get distracted, if you get an email comes up, like you've lost 15 minutes right there because of the context shifting. If you try and get back into a flow state, like it just doesn't happen, right? So learning how to be deep in flow and get massive amounts of work done has been something that kind of a superpower of mine. Like back when I was blogging, I think in February last year, I published like 38 articles or something. Like I was just cranking out words at a rate that was ridiculous, and I built 2 businesses and just about sold both of them within the last 2 years. I've been able to really get some pretty good output, whereas people coming from a job transitioning to freelance work or a business like this, you just don't have that skill. You don't know when to work or how to maximize your output. So that's something that people don't really see coming, but it's something you have to, again, like, you're kind of forced to learn how to do that if you want to get anything done. So you get better at it, but you have to work at it. The other thing I would say is this particular environment isn't necessarily super well optimized for. There's a lot of distractions here. I'm in Thailand. I'm in Pattaya specifically. Lots. As I said, you can go out clubbing 7 days of the week and have a great time. There's beer bars everywhere. There's girls everywhere. There is the beach everywhere. Amazing food, just great weather all the time. Your cost of living is so low that you don't really need to work that many hours a week to pay your bills and live pretty well. When I'm hiring someone, I'm like, look, you can do the work however you want to. You can work as many hours as you like. I just want these results, right? And so I leave it in their court. Like, you figure out how to do it. I've just hired a guy who's moved from he was in Korea recently, Vietnam. He's come to Thailand. He's around here. He used to teach English here, and now he's doing marketing stuff for me. And I told him, I'm like, look, here's what I want to happen, and like, go and do it. I don't care if you work 7 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 hours, 10 hours, like, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about working online, is that you really can have that time freedom to, do a bloody podcast at 3:00 in the afternoon, whereas, you might be flat out asking to go to the toilet at a normal cubicle job, so, but distractions and staying on the path. I'm a bit of a degenerate at heart, Angus. You know this. I like to party far more than I should. I've tried recently the idea of putting this part of my life behind me, and I've made so many incredible memories from partying and running amok that I could die tomorrow saying I've lived a full life already. But I just like it too much. I like being a degenerate too much still, unfortunately. So being able to figure out, how to do that and still be extremely productive in your work, that's a tough balance. And sometimes there is no balance, but I've gotten pretty good at sort of making sure the wheels don't fall off entirely and getting things back on track when I do get a little carried away. But it's a constant battle. I would love to just be straight edge, man. It would make life so much easier. But
I think that's a superpower for some people. They don't realize, like, people who just like don't want to go out, don't want to socialize, are hyper introverted, and then
you're going to be a very rich man if you do that.
Super successful and find a good purpose based business to build. Like,
Angus, I've pondered this for so many hours. I've written a lot about this, trying to get my own thoughts together about it. I quit drinking forever, maybe a year ago. Didn't last all that long, maybe 6 months. And 6 months into, when I do something like this, it's to me, there's no point quitting drinking for 6 months. So I'm like, if I'm going to quit drinking, it's forever, because it just makes sense. It's like, otherwise I'm either on or I'm off, right? And I got to about 6 months into the no drinking, and I was like, kind of fucking boring. Like, kind of bored. I want to go out and party. I want to go and sit at the cocktail cart and down Long Island iced teas. And like, I kind of came to a point where I realized, like, I still kind of value that. And then I was trying to drill in deeper, like, what is it about going out and drinking that I actually like? What do I actually get out of it? And I think it's not so much about the drinking itself. It's more about the anticipation of potentially anything unfolding in the night. I could meet the love of your life, or it could, meet a random guy who becomes best friends. Like I've had so many crazy stories that have happened from just going out and partying that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the spontaneity. I'm looking for this adventure, this sense of adventure. And it's tough to kind of get that, I've found, without drinking. Because, if you just go out for dinner instead, like people aren't really socializing for dinner. It's kind of a different environment. I've like try to figure out how I can meet those needs of mine without any alcohol or whatever it is. And I don't know. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to make it make a little more sense in my head. But right now, I'm okay with doing it, being in moderation. We've just had Songkran here, which is like a 7-day water fight, and you just drink and party for 7 days. It's very hard to get anything done because you can't really drive to the shops or go buy food without getting soaked in water. So I'm just like, fuck it, just write off the whole week, and everyone just drinks and parties and it's.
And I had no idea about this until you told me, and then I've seen some stuff on social media since, and it's like I don't think people kind of realize, having no context of what this is. It is exactly as you've just described, literally a water fight with the whole city, probably the whole nation, super soakers, water bombs, like you name it, for a week.
People drive around with like water tankers with water cannons on it and be blasting people from like 30 meters away, and like the road's just absolute carnage. Like it's so fucking dangerous. Like the amount of road deaths is insane. Like I remember like thinking like I was driving and some chick was like standing on the side of the road with a bucket about to get me, and someone was turning on the other lane. I was like, I'm like literally swerving like 2 lanes over to dodge this chick's water. I'm like, if I had hit this car, I would be so fucking mad about like the whole situation. Like it's unbelievable that they let it happen. But look, that's Thailand. That's why we love it, because it's carnage and it's just, it's kind of fucked up. It's dangerous. The streets are dangerous. People accept that and take personal responsibility for everything, and it just works. Like this wouldn't happen in Australia because someone would die at some point and then it would just be banned forever.
They just want to bubble wrap it, and like there's obviously you got to take the risk. But man, the scenes that I saw, the social media stuff looked like something out of Mad Max, but just like instead of bullets and fire, it was like water and just
it is
people with no clothes on running around everywhere, just having a giant party. I was like, this is kind of insane, but also like I'm stoked that there's a place in the world where you can do this.
It's a lot of fun, at least for the first few years, and you end up being the resentful, bitter old Farang who's like, 1 week is too long, 1 day is enough. And it used to be just like one day, and every year since it's gotten more and more crazy. And last year there was like an unwritten rule where you'd stop at 6 p.m. with the water and people could go out and have dinner and stuff. And now they've just been like, fuck it, we're just going all night and all day. There's just no end to it. So you kind of like sit at home and avoid it for much of a week if you can. But yeah, the inner D-gen likes to party, so what can I do?
Get out there with the water pistols, mate. Well, look, dude, this has been good fun, and I hope we get to do it again. I appreciate you, and maybe you're selling me on the Thailand dream a little bit, so I might have to come and pop over and pick up a super soaker.
100%, mate. 100%. Yeah, I think you're insane for not being here. I need more friends here and people that I like. So, look, whatever I can do to sweeten the pot, get in here. And, it's just better than Australia, bro.
Well, look, there's definitely I've been here for too long, so I'll be popping on a plane at some point and flying at least past your direction. So I'll pop in and say hi for sure.
All right, man. Sounds good, bro. We can go chatting with you as always.